Look, I know exactly what you are doing. You are lying there, or maybe you are sitting on the couch with the TV volume low in the background, and you are refreshing your banking app. You see that number. It is a good number. It is probably the highest number you have ever had in your adult life. You have been working hard, you have been skipping a few things, saying no to dinners out or that new gadget you do not really need, and it is finally paid off. You have a cushion. You have safety. You look at that balance and you feel okay. You feel protected. But then there is this little itch in the back of your brain. Because you also know that while that money is safe, it is kind of asleep. It is just sitting there. You know the bank is giving you what? 0.05% interest? You are smart enough to do the math in your head and realize that basically you are standing still while the cost of everything around you, the rent, the groceries, the gas, is slowly creeping up. You feel stuck in this weird limbo where you are too responsible to blow the money on something stupid, but you are too terrified to actually do anything with it that involves risk. My name is Biob, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, financial psychology, and why some people seem to effortlessly build wealth while others stay stuck in the same financial patterns for decades. Honestly, I think about this stuff more than I probably should. I get obsessed with the why. Why do we freeze up? Why is moving money from a savings account to an investment account so emotionally difficult that it gives us actual anxiety? And here is the thing I have realized after staring at this problem for years. The gap between being a saver and being an investor is not about math. It is not about knowing what a PE ratio is or understanding complex derivatives. That is the excuse we tell ourselves. Oh, I need to learn more before I start. No, the gap is entirely psychological. It is about rewiring how you view safety and risk. Today we are going to walk through that transition. Not just the mechanics of clicking buttons, but the actual mental shift you need to make to take that pile of cash you have worked so hard to protect and turn it into something that works for you. Because if you can make this leap, and I promise you it is a leap, not a step, everything changes. You stop playing defense and start playing offense. And honestly, it feels a lot better than you think. So let us talk about where you are right now. You are in the parking lot phase of wealth. And look, being in the parking lot is not bad. Most people never even make it to the parking lot. They spend their lives driving around the highway, burning gas, never stopping to let the engine cool down. So if you have savings, give yourself some credit. You have stopped the bleeding. You have created a moat around your life. But a parking lot is not a destination. You cannot live there forever. Eventually the car runs out of gas or the meter runs out. The first step in turning saving into investing is redefining what that money actually is. Right now, you look at your savings account balance and you see emergency fund. You see new car fund. You see OSHT fund. That is a survival mindset. It is purely defensive. And for a long time, that is necessary. But to turn into an investor, you have to look at that pile of money and split it in your brain. You have to say, okay, this chunk right here, that is for survival. That stays in the parking lot. But this chunk is for the future. This chunk is for freedom. And that brings us to the first real hurdle in this path. The barrier of entry. I remember when I first tried to invest. I do not know, 22 or 23. I had saved up maybe $2,000. I signed up for this brokerage app and I was staring at the screen. My finger was literally hovering over the buy button and my heart was pounding. It felt like I was about to walk into a casino and put it all on red. It is a visceral physical reaction, is not it? Your brain is screaming, do not do it. You worked. 3 months of overtime for that. What if it disappears? And here is the secret that nobody really tells you loudly enough. That fear never fully goes away. Even now, after years of doing this, when I move a large chunk of cash into the market, I still feel that little tug in my chest. The difference is I have learned to interpret that feeling differently. We need to talk about the invisible enemy that is eating your savings while you sleep. Inflation. I know. I know. It is a boring economics word that pundits yell about on TV. But you have to understand it viscerally, not just intellectually. Imagine you have a block of ice sitting on your kitchen counter. That ice is your savings account. Even if you do not touch it, even if you put it in the freezer, which is like a high-yield savings account, it is slowly sublimating. It is shrinking. It is losing its shape and its mass. That is what happens to money when it sits still. The dollar amount stays the same. $10,000 is always $10,000, but what it can do for you shrinks. I remember buying a coffee about 10 years ago. It was like $2, maybe $2.50 if I got fancy. Now, I walk into a shop and it is $7 for a latte. If I had kept that $2 in a shoebox since 2014, thinking I was saving it for a coffee today, I would be woefully disappointed. I did not lose the money. I lost the purchasing power. When you turn saving into investing, what you are actually doing is you are trying to turn that block of ice into a river. You want your money to move. You want it to flow into assets that grow and adapt. A company that sells coffee, a piece of real estate, a basket of businesses. These things fight back against the melting. They raise their prices. They grow their profits. They keep up with the $7 lattes of the world. So how do we actually cross the bridge? How do we go from the safety of the flat line to the volatility of the wavy line? Step 1 is arguably the most important because without it, you will panic. You have to build your fortress. This is your true emergency fund. Before you buy a single share of stock, you need to know, deep down in your bones, that if your car breaks down tomorrow, or you lose your job, or your tooth explodes in the middle of the night, you do not need to sell your investments to pay for it. Investing requires a long time horizon. It requires the ability to say, I do not need this money for at least 5, preferably 10 years. If you invest your rent money, you are not an investor. You are a gambler with a very short fuse. And when the market drops, and it will drop, I promise you it will drop, you will be forced to sell at the bottom just to keep the lights on. That is the wealth killer. So, do the math. What is your bare-bones survival number for 3 to 6 months? Be honest. If it is $15,000, keep $15,000 in cash, in a high-yield savings account, somewhere insured. That money is dead to the world. It is not for growing. It is for sleeping at night. Once you have that fortress built, everything else above that line is fair game. That is your Trojan horse. That is what we are going to sneak into the castle of the stock market. Okay, so you have got your fortress. You have got your investable cash sitting on the side. Now comes the paralysis of choice. You open an app, or you go to a website, and you are bombarded with thousands of options. Tech stocks, energy stocks, crypto, bonds, ETFs, mutual funds, REITs. It is alphabet soup. It is overwhelming. And here is where most people get stuck. They get analysis paralysis. They spend 6 months reading articles, watching YouTube videos, ironically, maybe even this one, and trying to find the perfect investment. They want the secret pick. The one that is going to double in a month. Here is a hard truth that might annoy you, but it is the only thing that matters. You do not need to find the best investment. You just need to find a good enough investment and stick with it. My name is Bob, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, and I can tell you that the people who win in the long run are not the geniuses picking the next apple. They are the people who automate a boring process and then go live their lives. So, let us simplify. If you are turning saving into investing for the first time, you are looking for a total market index fund or an S&P 500 ETF. I am not going to get too deep into the acronyms because it does not matter. What matters is the concept. When you buy an S&P 500 fund, you are buying a tiny slice of the 500 biggest, most profitable companies in America. You are buying Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Visa, JP Morgan. You are betting that American business, broadly speaking, will not go to zero. It is a bet on human ingenuity and profit-seeking. And historically, it is a bet that has paid off. Not every year. Sometimes it is down. But over 10, 20, 30 years, the trend is up. The beauty of this approach is that it lowers the stakes. You are not betting on one horse. You are betting on the whole derby. If one company fails, who cares? You own 499 others. It allows you to sleep. But here is the psychological hurdle that trips people up at this stage. It is the lump sum versus dollar cost averaging debate. And honestly, it is a debate that people spend way too much energy on. Let us say you have $10,000 ready to invest. Your brain says, what if I put it all in today and tomorrow the market crashes? That is a terrifying thought. So you wait. You wait for the dip. You have heard people talk about buying the dip. I will just wait until it goes down, you say. Here is the problem with that strategy. The market has historically gone up more often than it goes down. By waiting for the dip, you are statistically likely to miss out on gains. I have seen people sit on cash for years waiting for a crash that never comes, while their money melts away due to inflation. The antidote to this fear is something called dollar cost averaging. It sounds fancy, but it is actually very simple and, honestly, very comforting. Instead of dumping $10,000 in all at once, you set up a schedule. You invest $2,000 a month for 5 months, or you invest $500 a week. What this does is it removes your responsibility to be a genius. If the market drops next week, great. Your scheduled contribution buys more shares at a discount. If the market goes up, great. Your existing shares are worth more. You stop trying to time the market, which is impossible, and you start time in the market. I want to take a second to talk about the emotional roller coaster you are about to get on. Because nobody warns you about this part. You do the research. You buy the fund. You feel good. You feel like an adult. You check your app the next day. It is green. You made $20. Amazing. You feel like Warren Buffett. You check it a week later. You made $50. You start mentally spending that money. Oh, I could buy a new monitor with those gains. And then it happens. Maybe it is a bad news report about interest rates. Maybe there is some geopolitical drama halfway across the world. You open your app and your account is red. Not just a little red. Bright, angry red. You have lost $200. $300. Your gut reaction is physical. You feel a knot in your stomach. You think, I knew it. This is a scam. I should have kept it in the bank. This moment of panic, is the test. This is the filter between the saver who stays a saver and the saver who becomes an investor. When you see that red number, you have to tell yourself a new story. You have to say, nothing bad happened today. The companies I own still sold millions of cups of coffee. They still sold millions of iPhones. They still processed billions of credit card transactions. The business is fine. The only thing that changed is the price people are willing to pay for those businesses right now. And honestly, if you are a net buyer, if you are still putting money in every month, you should want the prices to be lower. It is like going to the grocery store. Do you get upset when milk is on sale? No, you buy 2 cartons. But when it comes to stocks, we have this weird instinct that wants prices to go up forever, even though we are still buying. It is illogical. My name is Biob, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, and I have realized that controlling this emotional reaction is 90% of the game. If you can learn to shrug your shoulders at a red day, you have already won. You have successfully turned saving into investing. Let us talk about the engine that makes all of this work. The magic sauce. Compound interest. I know you hear about it all the time. Einstein allegedly called it the 8th wonder of the world. It sounds like hyperbole, but it is actually just math. But it is math that feels like magic until you see it in action. Imagine you have a snowball. You are standing at the top of a really, really long hill. You push the snowball. At first, it is tiny. It is just a handful of snow. It picks up a little more snow as it rolls. It gets a little bigger. That is your initial contributions. You are adding money so the pile grows. But then something interesting happens. As the snowball gets bigger, its surface area gets larger. It touches more snow as it rolls. It starts growing not just because you are pushing it, but because it is rolling. It starts to pull in snow on its own. In investing, the snow it picks up on its own is the dividends and the growth. If you leave the money alone, the money that the money earned starts earning money. And then that money earns money. I did a calculation the other day that just blew my mind. If you invest $500 a month, just $500, that is like a car payment or a fancy dinner habit, and you get a modest return, let us say 7%, which is historically conservative for the stock market. Do you know how much you have after 30 years? It is over $600,000. You put in $180,000 over those 30 years. The system, just the passage of time and the mechanics of compounding, gave you over $400,000. That is free money. That is the reward for patience. But you do not get that reward if you stay in the savings account. You have to push the snowball down the hill. You have to take the risk. There is, however, a trap on this path. A trap that catches smart people all the time. It is called lifestyle creep. You start investing. You start seeing your net worth go up. You feel good. So you think, hey, I am doing pretty well. I deserve a nicer apartment. You move. Your rent goes up $500. I deserve a nicer car. You lease a BMW. Your payment goes up $400. Suddenly, the money you used to save and invest is now going to Visa and the landlord. You are running faster on the treadmill, but you are not getting anywhere. Turning saving into investing is not just about moving money from a bank to a brokerage. It is about protecting that gap between what you earn and what you spend. You have to defend that gap with your life, because that gap is the seed of your future freedom. I have a friend. Let us call him Dave. Dave makes great money. He is a tech guy, but every time he gets a raise, he upgrades his life. He is in his 40s now, and he has nothing to show for it but a very nice watch and a very high monthly nut. He is still stuck in the parking lot. He just has a nicer car parked there. Do not be Dave. When you get a raise, when you get a bonus, when you finally pay off a debt, take that difference and immediately shove it into your investment account. Before you can taste it, before you can get used to it, redirect that river before it floods your living room. We are getting near the end of our talk here, and I want to circle back to something I said at the beginning. This is scary. It is okay to be scared. Fear is a healthy biological response to doing something new that involves risk. The people who never feel fear are the ones who make reckless mistakes and lose everything. Fear keeps you humble. Fear keeps you diversified. But you cannot let fear make your decisions for you. You have to drag fear along with you, kicking and screaming into the investment world. You have to say, I am afraid, but I'm doing it anyway. Because the alternative, the slow erosion of your hard work by inflation, is worse. The regret of looking back in 20 years and realizing you could have started today, but did not. That is a heavy burden to carry. So, here is your call to action. Not a hype, not a get-rich-quick scheme, just a quiet, practical step. Go to your banking app. Look at your balance. Subtract your emergency fund, your fortress money. Look at what is left. Even if it is $50, even if it is $100. Open an investment account if you do not have one. It takes 10 minutes. Buy a piece of the market, a total market fund, an S&P 500 fund, and then turn on the automation. Set it to buy automatically every week or every month. Make it boring. Make it invisible. And then, and this is the hardest part, do something else. Go for a walk. Read a book. Hang out with your friends. Let the machines, the companies, and the compound interest do the heavy lifting. My name is Bube, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, but I promise you this, the peace of mind that comes from knowing you are building a future for yourself is worth every moment of anxiety you feel today. You have got the saving part down. That was the hard work. Now, let your money do some work for you. It is ready. I promise you, it is ready.